We're TNTA, or Trans Non-Binary Taiko Artists Global Action Collective. TNTA is an initiative to fight for gender justice in the Taiko community. Our goal is to improve conditions for trans non-binary Taiko-affiliated people with an additional focus on anti-racism and anti-ableism.
But we don't need a whole organization just to get people to use their pronouns. We work on a few different issues that affect members of the Taiko community with regard to gender equity, including gender costuming, bathroom accessibility, trans-friendly intersections with other Taiko advocacy groups, issues that come up in performance, such as cisnormative and heteronormative themes and traditions, and bias against trans and non-binary people.
So this involves working directly with Taiko groups who are mistreating their trans non-binary members. That can be writing letters in support or various kinds of protesting. Say you're a trans femme in Boston and you're being asked by your group to wear a masculine costume. Or say you're a non-binary person in San Francisco who just wants to use a changing room without getting weird looks. You reach out to us, we get a handle on the situation, and we strategize together to come up with an action plan and execute it to try to help improve the situation for you and other trans non-binary members of your local Taiko community.
Some other things we do to help support the trans non-binary members of our community are forming spaces for us to share frustrating experiences with each other and vent about them, and also educating cis people as our time and energy allows.
Trans and non-binary folks, TNTA is a collective for you. Cis people are not allowed to join our group. Our member lists are kept private, and we have people in our group who are not out to their Taiko groups right now.
We're the founders of TNTA.
My name is Ariel. I use they, them pronouns. I am a woman, I am transgender, and I'm non-binary.
Hi, my name is Mazain Rose Leitner. I use they, them, and fair pronouns. I am trans, I am non-binary, I am a demigirl, and I am also autigender.
Hi, my name is Sassin. I use my name as a pronoun. Sassins. I'm trans, non-binary, genderqueer, and agender. As a person of color, as a child of immigrants, I've lived with unending pressure to assimilate in America. But what could rock the boat more than not being one of the binary genders, or not being the gender that I was assigned at birth? Because you see, transphobia is fundamentally a white supremacist project. What we were taught as the biological differences between men and women really come from the racist observation that the white race was the only one supposedly to have evolved a true differentiation between the sexes, and that all other races were inferior in how the sexes are differentiated, in part due to historical notions of gender being different from what they are now. The Taiko community is so important to people of color and immigrants, especially outside Asia. It provides so much that we as perpetual foreigners lack. It can provide a sense of family and closeness and belonging. So it hurts extra when we feel rejected by people within the Taiko community.
When I first came out, I had a TCA board member argue with me at a conference. But you're a woman. No, I'm not. Yes, you are.
My martial arts sensei, who is Japanese American and trans, and is a former national judo champion and has been studying since she was a child, she was driven out of her martial arts community because of her transness.
We know there's a problem in the Taiko community because there are basically no trans femmes of color here.
I wish I had more peers with whom I could relate to and mentors to look up to.
Ironically enough, the traditional aspects of Taiko tend to be one of the places where enforcement of gender norms becomes really important to people all of a sudden. Yes, sometimes gender is really important to how various art forms were carried out in the past. But it's not always as cut and dried as we try to make it seem today. And sometimes, in the pursuit of trying to do it right, we end up just harming our trans fellow players. We want to share some stories about that with you today.
I had to take on a role and wear a mask as part of the performance. And the masks and roles were either the old woman or the old man. There were, for some technical reasons, some attempts to suggest or offer me to play the old man role and wear the old man mask. And as a trans femme individual, this made me deeply uncomfortable. There's the broader question of what does this cisnormativity and this binaristic division of the roles lend to the storytelling? Is it really important? Can't we craft new stories and create new roles and envision things outside of just old man and old woman?
It's important to preserve and pass down traditional arts, not to just mindlessly perpetuate the tradition without thinking about it, but to be intentional about making changes. For one of the traditional Japanese music that I'm studying, my sensei's performance group only started to admit women 25 years ago out of its 200-year-old history. That's an important and intentional gender equity change that was made, that I'm told received a lot of pushback. I have the privilege of being able to study with my sensei, who respects my transness. Since this music historically has been performed professionally only by men, women who play this music professionally wear women's obi over what is otherwise essentially a men's costume. Wearing women's obi can feel validating for me, but as a trans femme, I struggle with dysphoria when wearing a mostly men's costume on stage, because I live in a society that is constantly trying to erase my womanhood.
Hachijodaiko is one of my favorite styles. I've been in situations where only female soloists were allowed to play. And these were the kind of moments where I had to make decisions of whether to be true to my gender identity or to perform a style of taiko that I love so much. People make a really big deal about whether the open leg stance is for men and the closed leg stance is for women, assuming that only women would wear the kind of yukata that would prevent them from taking a wider stance, when it doesn't seem like that's actually what the different stances are for at all. And the way that it's assumed that the style of Hachijodaiko is more floral and feminine, when frankly a lot of these techniques are actually used to help Hachijodaiko be more accessible to those who are old or young, more frail or injured or more drunk. It actually doesn't always have to do with gender. The way that we take on this art form is to add a binary gendered lens onto it.
Now for our call to action. We need your help getting the word out to your taiko groups about TNTA. Please don't just send TNTA material to the people in your group who you think might be trans or non-binary, because you don't know if they are. And also please don't assume that everyone in your taiko group is cisgender, because you don't know if they are. Please just forward TNTA content to all members of your taiko group. And if you are trans, non-binary, or questioning, you can join TNTA, or please contact us about any injustice you might be facing. You can reach us via email or our various social media platforms.
If you're cis, you can help by questioning and adjusting your behavior around the gender binary within your taiko group. So that could be around gender costuming, splitting up into gendered groups and having battle of the sexes style events, looking at the artistry. What sorts of stories are you telling? Do they always center cis people? It would also really help if you could speak out against those who are making fun of gender deviation. Even if you think there's no trans taiko people in your group, you could still advocate for inclusive bathrooms and changing facilities. You never know who it might make a difference to. Overall, just listen to us. Stop policing our appearance. Stop devaluing our behavior. By the way, of all of the taiko groups that the three of us have been in over the years, pretty much all of them have done these things. The only exceptions are the ones that are led by trans non-binary people. So please don't walk away from this thinking that your group is safe.
Please stop assuming that you're not harming us. Please make friends with trans people outside the taiko community and join organizations fighting for trans rights in your region. Please commit yourself to continuing to educate yourself so that you can be a remotely helpful ally.